Okay, so we're going to call out the laundry room, mechanic room space. So I'm going to go to View. I'm going to go to a call out, and I'm going to put a call out around that space. Probably drag this up here. And I'll zoom in on it here, and you'll see that I've actually put in some equipment in this laundry room on the main floor. It's a small laundry room, so I put in one washer, one dryer, and some countertop and a shelf over top of it. Okay. The mechanical room right now, I don't have any equipment in there, but I'll put some equipment in there. This building we're going to assume is going to be heated by a hot water boiler system, which means there'd be baseboards under the windows in each of the units to heat the spaces. And so we'll put a boiler in this room, we'll put a water heater in this room, and we'll put an electrical panel in this room. So I'm going to go to Architecture or Home, whichever your computer says. I'm going to go to a component. I'm going to go load the family. I'm going to go find, first off, I'm going to go find electrical, click on that, and I'm going to find electrical power and distribution, I believe, and there's an electrical panel. So that's my path to get there. In your program it might be slightly different, but we're looking for an electrical panel. If you click on that, you'll see what it's going to look like. So I'll open that, and an electric panel is similar to like a cabinet in that it won't show up until you hover over a wall. Okay, so it has to be attached to a wall. So in this case, directly in from the door, I'm going to put the panel on the outside wall. So I'll click that spot, and it shows a little box there that represents the panel. Okay. Keeping in mind that that's where the main power is coming into the building, and then it gets distributed to the apartment units from that point. But what's on the outside of the building behind the electrical panel? A meter box where the meters are exposed to the outside of the building. So at some point we'll put a meter on the outside of the building here, or several meters maybe. Okay, so I've got my electrical panel in there. Next thing I want is a water heater. So I'm going to go back to Components, Load Family, go to Plumbing, Equipment, Water Heater. Click on that, click the water heater, open that, and I can bring that in, and I'll set that back here, I believe. Okay, so I've got that in there. The next thing I'm going to bring in is that boiler, which is going to be the heating source for the building. So I'm going to go back to Components, Load Family, Mechanical, and on the there's an air side components and there's water side components. Let's just click on air side components. We got air conditioners, we got air terminals, we got furnaces, we got heat distribution devices. Okay, but those are all air type devices, so forced air type furnaces, things like that. So I'm going to go back. On the water side, I have boilers because we're heating with water in this building. And so I'll click on the boiler. You'll see that. Open. I'm going to bring that boiler in, and I'm going to sit it right here. Okay, so I've got the equipment in that room that I need, basically. I've got a boiler, I've got a water heater, and I've got an electrical panel. Okay, let's go click on this call out that I've placed here. And all of those pieces of equipment still show up in the call out. Drag this out a little bit farther here. Okay, so this is my blown up unit, and right now it's at 1/4 inch equals a foot. Our main plan was at 1/8 inch equals a foot, right? So that's probably a fair scale for that. If we wanted it bigger, we could change it, of course. And I want to put in some elevation bubbles then. So I'm going to go to View again. Elevation bubbles, an interior elevation bubble. Okay, when I went to put in my elevation bubble, it doesn't show up, and if it doesn't show up, it might be because it's hidden, and for some reason the default was hidden on my sheet here. So I'm going to highlight that, right click, and unhide in the view, the category, and click OK. And that's because on my original floor plan I had hidden those elements within that original 1/8 inch scale floor plan. Okay. So now if I clicked on that elevation, you will see the dryer, the washer, a piece of countertop that I put in, and a shelf above it with a rod under it. So when you're washing clothes, drying clothes, you can hang those up temporarily while you're sorting things out. So that's basically all that's going to be in my laundry room.
Can you include double set of washers and dryers?
You could include more washers and dryers. Let's go back to the floor plan. If we had a larger room. In this case, I have a fairly small room, so I opted to put in some countertop. This washer dryer is only servicing 4 units. So maybe 1 washer and dryer on this floor is fine. If we had a bigger laundry room, we could put in 2 washers, 2 dryers. If it was a bigger building, if it was 18-plex instead of an 8-plex, we could probably put in more units. So keep in mind that if you have a larger laundry room in your building, for some reason you enlarged it, you can obviously put in more units. Okay, so that's that room there. Let's go back to the call out, and let's look at the mechanical room. Not that we even have to create an elevation view of this equipment in the mechanical room, but if we did, I would probably do these 2 walls, and then if I clicked on this one, I'd be seeing the side of the boiler, and I'd be seeing the water heater. Okay, if I go back to the floor plan, or the call-out plan, I should say. If I click on this one, I would see the boiler, water heater, and the electrical panel. Okay. This might be a case where you might want to show this. The electrical panel comes in at the code required height of the electrical panel. So if I did go put a dimension on that, from the top of that panel to the floor, 5'6" is the code required height for the top of the panel. If we looked in electrical code, we could see that. So it automatically comes in at that height.
Is there a requirement you'd like to make?
Okay, so let's go back to the call out of the first floor plan again, this space. And the code requirement for the electrical panel is a minimum space directly in front of the panel of 3 feet. You have to be able to walk up to the electrical panel. So I couldn't set the water heater here, in other words, right? Because then it would be blocking that electrical panel. So in some cases, mechanical rooms are fairly tight, and that becomes a problem. And the code requires that you have a minimum space directly in front of the panel so the electrician or the inspector or whatever can walk directly up to the panel. You always want to put the panel on an exterior wall if at all possible. Requirement is that it should be on an exterior wall if at all possible. If you put it on an interior wall, which the code will allow, you do need a disconnect panel that's on the exterior wall that feeds the main panel, which is on the non-exterior wall. So it takes a separate, smaller panel. So in this case, we've got plenty of room here to get that in. The other thing we might want to put in our laundry room is, I guess in both cases, our laundry room and our mechanical room might be a floor drain, right? In case the washer overflowed or in case the water heater malfunctioned or the boiler and spewed some water out onto the floor system, we'd want to be able to get that to a drain. So again, I'll go back to the components, go to load family, go to plumbing, in this case it's probably fixtures, and we probably have drains, and we have a floor drain. I'll bring that floor drain over. In this case, I'm going to put it approximately in this. I want it exactly in the center of the room, basically. And I want another one up here in this room. They don't necessarily have to be centered in the room, but in this case, that's where I'd like it to be. It comes in with an FD representing floor drain. And then I want to indicate that the floor drains to that, so I'm going to go to annotate, go to a detail line using thin lines. I'm going to draw a line from this corner to this corner, from this corner to this corner, and the drain should center on that, so I'll move my drain over and center it there. That would indicate that from all four sides the floor drains to that floor drain. And I could do the same thing for the laundry room. And put that floor drain right in the middle. Let's talk about the outside view, what's on the outside of this electrical panel. And let's go look at the main floor plan here. And I want to put an electrical meter on the outside of that. Well, within the program, I haven't been able to find a meter, but we can find one at Revit City, right? So let's go to see if we can find Revit City. So I'm just going to Google and I'm going to type in Revit City. Revit City downloads. Oops. And I'm going to type in electrical meters and do a search. And basically we get all kinds of things in here that I think the one I want to look at is right here, single electrical meter base with meter. So I'm going to look at that one. Okay, so that's just a simple electrical meter with a base on it. Okay, so I'm going to log in. I'm going to download that one. And there it is. I'm going to load that into my project. Okay, so I put it on the outside of that meter, and it says none of the elements are visible in this view. So my assumption is going to be that it shows up on an elevation view. So let's go to the north elevation of our building. And there it is. Okay. So I put it in on the outside of the building. So we have one meter here. Now, in this building, I want to meter the commons area of the building separate of each of the units. So each tenant that moves in will pay their own electric bill. So I'd have to have a meter for every tenant in the building. That make sense? Okay, so I need a meter for the house, which is going to be the meter for the laundry room, the mechanic room, the lights in the corridor, things like that, right? So that's what that meter is going to be for, and I need 8 other ones. So I'm just going to click on this. I'm just going to copy it multiple times. Here, here. Okay, so I basically have 9 meters on the back of my building. We got 8 units, so we got 1 for every unit, and we have 1 for the commons area. Okay, so we have our meters on there. There should be a conduit that comes up the wall to the meter. If we wanted to get that detailed, we could put that conduit in as well, and probably just do that with line work. That would be fine. So that's just an example of that. If we go look at this as a 3-dimensional building, and I have my crop window on here, or my, okay, you'll see those meters on the back of the building. Okay, so you'll notice that on my main floor plan, I don't see the elevation bubbles of the elevations of the equipment in these 2 rooms, and that's because I have those frozen or hidden within this view. Those are hidden within this view because they show up at too large a scale, so I don't want them on the 1/8" scale drawing. But I do have them on the call out, and they show up there. So let's go to our sheet that we're going to put these on, which is the sheet that has the stair section on it. And I had already developed this at one point, so I'd already drug that one in. Let's go drag in the call out of the first floor plan. And before I drag that in, I want to rename that. I don't want it to say call out of first floor plan. So I'm going to click on it, right click, and rename it. Laundry. I want them all capital, I guess. laundry slash mechanical room plan. And I'm going to drag that on here. Okay, and then I have my laundry room elevations, and then we can put the other ones on that sheet as well. And I'm going to have to go back and find out what those were named. So if I click in this unit and activate the view, I could click on this one. And that one is over here labeled Elevation 1B. I want to rename that. Electrical panel elevation. Now I brought my laundry room elevation in at 3/8 equals a foot, which is the correct for a cabinet elevation. So this one came in at 1/4 inch equals a foot. I can activate that view and change the scale to 3/8. Deactivate the view. Line it up with my other one. Oops. And I'd obviously do some more labeling the boiler and the water heater and so forth. Okay, so I'll let you work on that.